Back just 10 years, you can see how technology is making our lives more convenient, but you might be getting more than you want. Our tech expert, Dave Hatter, is with us this morning via technology to show us how to keep Amazon, Google, and Apple out of our conversations. Dave, Happy New Year.
Thanks, Sheila. Happy New Year to you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, so billions of devices have speakers, whether it's your phone or your kids' toys, like you told us last week. Why do these companies want to listen to us?
Well, to some extent, Sheila, particularly with these so-called smart assistants, things like Echo and that sort of thing, they have to listen in order to be able to provide whatever their functionality is. And even with things like smart TVs, many of them accept voice commands. So, you're kind of accepting the camera and speaker combination in order for them to be able to do what it is that you bought them to do. The downside, of course, though, is, there have been folks have assumed that these things are listening all the time, but to some extent they have to, because they have to listen for you to say the wake phrase. The real issue then is, how much of that information is stored, how long is it stored, who has access to it, that sort of thing. And that's usually where people, especially, the tinfoil hat people like me say, well, wait a minute, I don't know that I really like this. And
right.
As bet you can guess, I don't have any of these devices.
Well, so you don't have any of these devices. The rest of us do. You mentioned the wake phrases. Siri and Alexa have wake phrases like, hey, Alexa. But sometimes they wake up by mistake, or they have to be listening to hear the wake phrases. So what's happening when they do? Are they recording us, and how much?
Well, and that's probably the $64,000 question, Sheila. Yeah, they have to listen. And, if you think about how these things work, the manufacturers are, of course, going to err on the side of being more receptive to the wake phrase than less, because if they don't work very well, people aren't going to use them. Researchers did a study. They took a bunch of these devices, put them in a room. They played 125 hours of TV. And through their research, they found over 1,000 phrases that kicked these different devices off. They had them from all the different major manufacturers. They found on average these devices will activate incorrectly 19 times a day. That's the thing that I think is disturbing about it. And they found that with one device, it recorded up to 43 seconds after the wake phrase. So, that then, depending on exactly how it works, gets sent off to the mothership to figure out what it is that you ask it to do. Now, Apple has got some new capability with Siri where that's all processed on your phone. But most of these things, that data is getting sent off to the mothership. It's getting stored. There have been concerns in the past about employees listening to that. Now, the argument from the vendors was, well, the employees listen to it to make sure that it's doing what you actually asked it to do. It's a quality assurance thing. So that makes sense to me to a point. But I don't know that the average person really understands, again, how often these things might activate, how much of their conversations and background activities, especially depending on where the devices are located in their home, is being recorded. And then again, who at that vendor might potentially be able to access those audio clips or the instructions. And
for sure, we know that they're using it to send us advertising because it turns up in our feeds. But with less than a minute left, Dave, I know the only surefire way to stop this is to not have it or to have it turned off. But how can we stop this active listening?
Well, you're right, Sheila. The only surefire way is to get rid of them. But if you want these devices around, and they do provide a lot of convenience and some cool functionality, what you can do is, and unfortunately it's going to vary depending on the manufacturer. CNET put out a good article that kind of walks you through the steps, but you can go to your manufacturer's website, whether it's Apple, Amazon, Google, whomever, and find out, basically dig into the settings and basically say, I don't want this stuff recorded permanently. I don't want the employees there to be able to listen to it, and essentially turn down the amount of data that they're capturing and how long that data is stored. So you do have some capability to improve your privacy and limit the amount of information. Exactly how you do it, unfortunately, is going to depend on the manufacturer of that device and their particular settings. But it is possible. I encourage folks to definitely dig in and check that out.
CNET is a great website for things like that, too. Dave Hatter, thank you so much. We appreciate the help, as always.
Thanks, Sheila. Have a great day.
All right, you too.